So lately I've been reflecting on all of the kind of big hurdles that I had to go through in order to get here, in order to start self-actualization systems. And also the path that I went through was a little bit unconventional. And the reason I was thinking about it is because, I've got a lot of clients that are going through their own hero's journeys, and it's quite comforting for them to hear the fact that I've gone through similar things, and it's not something that's new for them. And the biggest thing that I really went through, or the biggest identity shift that I went through all through my jiu-jitsu days, my days of trying to get out there and dating, socializing, breaking out of social anxiety, social freedom, you can call it, all came down to the fact that in order for something to be meaningful for me, it had to be really hard. And I had to work really hard in order to get the thing. And on the surface, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to have that, because it makes you work really hard. You don't look for excuses. You don't look for an easy way out. It makes you very emotionally resilient. It allows you to build anti-fragility and true authentic strength, because you're going through hard things and you're not shying away from challenges, and you're not shying away from whatever's intimidating, and you're going straight for it. So competitions, speaking to strangers, going on dates, when I had social anxiety, obviously, building a business on your own, moving to a different country, moving to a different continent, all of this stuff has a lot of benefits. But the way that it held me back was that I made a mountain out of a molehill. If you don't know what that phrase is in English, it's basically making a big thing out of nothing. And I did that for everything. It made there be extra resistance, it made there be extra friction, it made there just be extra. We can just end it there. There was always something extra compared to someone else. Because I wasn't able to see the ease in something. I wasn't able to let a molehill just be a molehill. And that meant that it took me ages, it took me years, it took me almost a full decade, really, of socializing in order to just learn social calibration. I always had to say the edgy thing. I always had to say the thing that was slightly out there. I always had to push the boundaries. I always had to push the intensity. And there was a lot of different reasons for that. But the biggest one is because I was addicted to it being hard. And actually, if I lost that struggle, if it did become easy for me, which it has now, after all those years, finally, right? Then I wouldn't have that identity anymore. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because usually the thing that we're most proud of is the gatekeeper to our identity really being shifted. That's why I made my most practical guide to shadow work on the internet, so you can actually get to the root of your identity and let go of the things that are holding you back whilst keeping the essence of your personality. So we're just getting rid of shadows, we're just getting rid of ignorance, we're just getting rid of insecurity, and we're allowing what's truly there to actually come out. So how that looked like for me is the fact that I did have a very authentic part of me that was a hard worker, that did want to get shit done, that was very direct, and that was very assertive in what he wanted, that did set aggressive goals, that was able to keep to those aggressive goals. I did have that part of me, but that doesn't have anything to do with me having the insecurity that everything had to be hard, and if something wasn't hard and it was just given to you, then it wasn't worth anything. I didn't need that part. But that was really hard for me to see, especially when I was in it. Even when I was living with my mentors and they were pointing it out, and I was going for 2, 3 hour, 4 hour sometimes sits of Buddhist meditation, Theravada style, TWIM style, Tranquil Wisdom Insight meditation. When I was learning about hypnotherapy for the first time, when I was learning about shadow work for the first time, when I was working with my mentors who were psychotherapists for 30 years and had to deal with all sorts, it still was something which permeated deep inside of me because I was proud of it, because I liked it, because I believed it. All of our deepest rooted issues, because you couldn't even, in some ways you couldn't even call this an insecurity. What was I insecure about, right? But it was a shadow, but it wasn't an insecurity. But it was a deep rooted unconscious gatekeeper of my potential. Because if everything had to be hard, then I had to treat everything as hard. I couldn't be as spontaneous. I had to plan loads of things. I had to really go into depth with everything. I wasn't able to just fail and go to the next one and learn and think maybe that's not for me. It took away so much of my dynamism. It took away so much of my spontaneity and adventurousness. And most of all, what it took away from me was when something was easy, when something did come naturally, I could work just as hard. I could do all of that stuff just as much that I wanted to do, like all of the hard work and planning and all that kind of thing. I could do that just as much and it also be easy at the same time. You know, there's that saying that talent or that hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. Well, what happens if talent does work hard? If something's easy and you work hard at it at the same time, then you become really exceptional of it. And it was only by identifying the fact that I actually really liked that about myself and I didn't want to let it go. And I wanted to keep that. Even though I wanted all of the stuff that was on the other side of it, I almost wanted my cake and then I wanted to eat it. Even though I wanted all of that, I had to let it go. I had to let go of the desire that this was me, that pride that I took in it. And it's not just me, it happens with a lot of clients. Usually at the start, when we work together, it's a lot of fears, it's a lot of identities, it's a lot of parts of us, which is like very outwardly, you know that you need to heal this. You know that you need to let it go. And there's not really much attachment to it. Every once in a while, we'll have things where something is really causing us a lot of pain and distress. And for whatever reason, because it feels safe or we've just had it for a long time, we want to keep on holding it. And that can take time and that's a sticky issue and that can happen, right? But as we go deeper and we let go of all the obvious stuff so that social anxiety goes away, so that we can set boundaries really easily, so that we just become much more naturally respected because we know our values and we have no problem saying them. We can ask for what we want and we don't feel shy anymore and confidence starts to come. We start getting more attractive. All of the kind of basic stuff, right, that gets sorted out. Or not basic stuff, but all of the more in-your-face stuff that gets sorted out. That stuff's great. But the deeper stuff comes when we actually start looking at what is constructing our identity. Right, and this is when it's starting to get more advanced too. So just watch this a few times, I recommend, if you're interested in this, because then, you know, it'll just give your mind time to let all of these insights permeate, hopefully. We start to look at the building blocks of what actually makes us us, what makes the personality Aaron, what makes the personality you, what our identity is built out of. And what our identity is built out of is assumptions, constructs, and underlying unconscious predictions about the world that we have made due to external circumstances and external influences. Like, let's say, I recently just made a video about nice guys and different types of nice guys. Being a nice guy is an underlying strategy that if I'm nice, I will get what I want. So it's inherently manipulative, right? That's one assumption. In my case, everything that's worth doing is hard. The underlying assumption there is that, therefore, everything that I want to do will be hard and is hard, so I've got to make sure it's like a real big Herculean effort in order to fit that assumption. You need to get to the identity level of your assumptions. And that's what we do in the later part of me working together one-on-one with someone. And what happens here is, whilst on the surface level changes, like big changes, it's like, I don't have social anxiety anymore. I used to be afraid of dating and relationships and being hurt or putting myself out there. I used to be afraid of setting my boundaries. I used to not be able to ask for what I want or not be able to go and commit to the things that I want to do. And now they can do all of that, and that's great. The deeper level identity changes. What happens is a whole way of viewing the world completely switches. Like for me, I was able to see the ease of how easy something was, the ease of starting a business on your own, the ease of handling all of that stress, the ease of handling uncertainty. I was able to unlock an ease. I never would have been able to predict that before. So that all of these challenging circumstances, they didn't lose any of their challengingness. But because I no longer had an extra assumption that everything was hard and I had to push through the pain and I had to grind, then I was able to see the lightness and the ease and all of that. And it made all of that stuff much easier to handle. And ironically, it made me much stronger. It made me much more anti-fragile because I was able to see that softness there. So an example from one of my clients, everything had to be understood, everything had to be felt, everything had to feel right. And this meant, he had a lot of success in his life. He didn't have to work for a few years and was able to do all these high-level mentorships. But now he's starting a business. He can't do that. He's founding. Now he's founding his business. He can't do any of that. He has to just get stuff done. He has to do things when he's not motivated. And the underlying assumption that changed was, I have to understand everything and everything has to feel resonant in order for it to be right to do. And again, what was his attachment to that? His attachment to that was, I really like the fact that I can do that and I can be introspective and I can be really intelligent and I can be really deep and I can think about these things in such a comprehensive way. I like that too. And it has so many advantages, but you don't need to have that underlying assumption in order to be that. That underlying assumption is completely superfluous. It's unnecessary. You can be just as intellectual and smart and have a deep process whilst not being constrained to the idea that this is what you need to do in order to execute. So he went from, at the end of the time, because he was running out of money, living with his parents, to now founding a business and being location independent and working on something which is probably going to take up most of his time for the next 10, 20, 30 years because it's so aligned with what he wants to do. Again, using that introspectiveness to know what's aligned for him, but then no longer having that underlying assumption so that there's no gap between action or between thought and action. Again, if you want to be able to do this to yourself, then I have my free practical shadow work guide in the comments below. All it costs is your email. You also get signed up to my email list where you don't get that content anywhere else, including on my YouTube. It's a 2.5-hour live stream done with my one-on-one clients. And it gives the whole system of what I do with my one-on-one clients in my own process in order to actually heal the insecurities, so the first stuff we talked about. But it can also be used in the same way of shifting you at an identity level. We're not adding anything. We're not telling you to be somebody else. We're not like I have a lot of male clients and they're into the manosphere and I have to get tats and I have to be jacked, I have to get on steroids, I have to have these hobbies, I have to have sex with these many women, I have to go on this many dates, I have to do all of this stuff in order to be a man. We're not adding any of that. We're subtracting all of the stuff that is superfluous so that the actual real authentic you can shine through. And because it's actually you, it's just a soft power, a soft uniqueness. There's no one else that is you. It can't be any stronger. It can't be any more powerful. That's what we're unlocking with the identity level work, with the shadow work, right? And what I'd invite for you to do if you're listening up until now is to really look at, if you have a lot of shadows, if you have a lot of insecurities, cool, you can deal with that first. But what is it that I'm really proud of right now that I don't want to let go of? And I would invite you to look at that and see if it's holding you back.